Hello, hello, hello. Apologies. I was having some issues trying to get OBS Studio to work, and for whatever reason, I guess I got to create the live stream in the OBS account. Kept giving me an error when I tried to connect it to the existing stream. So I apologize. My fault. User error. I'll make sure that that doesn't happen again next time. So instead of you following along with my screen, which you don't believe I can do through YouTube Studio, how to use OBS, you will have to look at my face again for another 20 minutes while I go through all of the stuff that we were chatting about. Either way, thank you so much for all of you who are attending. It's wonderful to join all of you on a Friday evening. I'm very much pleased to have returned from my vacation over the week at Holiday Inn Orange Lake. It's a wonderful family vacation, although I will say that I don't quite think it's as good as Marriott Harbor Lake, at least for me and my two small children. But that's a story for another time. And I will make the effort to write a very detailed review of that stay, which the resort itself was wonderful. And I would certainly return, but there were some upsides and downsides, obviously, to attending that beautiful resort, to which was I don't know. I guess the best thing I could describe it, a little bit needed a little bit. Children need to be a little bit older for me to enjoy a vacation there without having to hover over them the entire stay. So again, here we are, the third installment, I believe. Second, one, two, three, third installment of Timeshare Recap Tuesday. This time it's on a Friday. I did try to stream this through the resort where I was staying at. I just couldn't get a good enough Wi-Fi signal to maintain a live stream. I tested it a couple times, and I think I would be miserable trying to do that, and you guys would be miserable trying to watch it. Hey, dude, and Jeremy, thanks for joining us. Destination Timeshare on the channel. Certainly appreciate you being able to tune in. Thank you so much for being able to attend this time. I know you've been traveling as well. Always appreciate everyone who logs in to look at this and listen to me ramble for as long as you guys are willing to stay online and listen, to be perfectly honest. This one is going to cover some probably the hottest topic that we have had in time sharing that I can think of all year. It has been just absolutely bonkers, and it only involves one system, and most of you probably already know what I'm talking about. And so we can just dive right into it. And that is the announcement, whether official, unofficial, semi-official, partially official. But Wyndham, the writing is on the wall that Wyndham has chosen to remove a number of its resorts from the Wyndham point system. Originally, this rumor started that, between 5 and 20 resorts were going to close. I genuinely don't think that's the case, although in terms of the Wyndham program, it'll be over. So those of you who have these Wyndham contracts are no longer going to be able to access these resorts as they come through. Hi, Bill. Thanks for tuning in. Fantastic. All of you were able to join. Going back to our Wyndham thing is we're looking right now at between 10 and 20 resorts in the Wyndham system by the end of this year are absolutely going to no longer be available within the Wyndham system. Now there's been lots of conjecture and guesswork and assumptions made on what's going to happen, how many resorts it's going to be, which resorts are going to be. And I will say that right off the bat, we have only had legitimate confirmation in terms of an official press release or an official announcement from one single resort. Now, that said, the writing is kind of on the wall. My contacts, who are very, very highly placed within the industry, not trying to toot my own horn, I would trust these people when they tell me things, as well as a number of other tug members who have contacts within the Wyndham program, have expressed there is truth to these rumors. Although none of them can confirm any of this stuff, and none of them can say that publicly because the announcements haven't officially been made. And we're talking about what is essentially a dozen or more resorts spread across the Wyndham system, but all of these resorts have their own individual homeowners associations, have their individual bylaws, have their individual covenants, all have staff and managers down to house cleaners that all have to be taken care of before they're going to announce something like this to the public. Now Wyndham did release their own press release. It was very vague on details, but it did specifically mention that they are going to be downsizing, removing a number of resorts. They did not specify the number, they didn't specify the name, but it was very clear from the press release that by the end of 2025, which is the end of this year, a good number of Wyndham resorts are no longer going to be available in the Wyndham system. When you talk about things like that, that's a big deal. Not so much for when the actual truth comes out, it's going to be, earth changing. But when you have the rumor mill just absolutely explode, I want to say that the post on Tug was something along the lines of, I think we've got what, 30 to 40,000 views and almost 1,000 replies in a week. This just came out this week. And so many people have been scrambling to collate all of the data that's been posted on Facebook, that's been posted on the Tug forums, that have been posted on other forums out there. The amount of information and claims and you know jibber jabber, for lack of a better term, that has gone on about this very topic has been just mind blowing. I've seen everything from they're completely shutting down and selling off 20 resorts to, as we mentioned, there's only one that's actually gone through and confirmed that that resort is ceasing its operations in the Wyndham program by the end of this year. We do fully expect that a number of other resorts, up to 20, I don't think it would actually be 20, but up to 20 of those resorts, for whatever reason, however far it goes, are no longer going to be a part of the Club Wyndham timeshare program. Now, what does that mean for the owners in the Club Wyndham systems, or more importantly, perhaps deeded owners at these resorts? And that's really where the gray area comes into play. Again, there's so many rumors flying around. The only thing that has been confirmed by Wyndham is that owners will be offered to transfer their ownerships, there, even if it's deeded ownership, to a Club Wyndham Access point value based on whatever ownership you have. Whether or not you want to take that offer up, whether or not that you find that acceptable, each owner is going to have to make that decision on their own. But at the very least, you are offered something, and it was mentioned, at least officially, that that would be offered free of charge. So your ownership, your deed, will be converted to a Club Wyndham Access points ownership at an equivalent value. There were no real details. At least I saw a number of different options out there. You will be offered the ability to transfer that to Club Wyndham Access and continue your Wyndham ownership. Obviously, you now lose the ability to book at a further out interval at your home resort if you happen to own at these, a regular Club Wyndham ownership at these resorts that are quote unquote closing down. I hate to use that term because I don't actually feel like all of these resorts are going to suddenly shut down and be sold off. Some of them might go to other programs. Some of them might, some of them might actually be sold off. I just don't want to get into the rumor mill because nothing has been confirmed other than the fact that it seems very, very clear that a good number of these resorts, and I think at last count, the resorts that we had probable back channel confirmation on, that at the very least, this is one of the programs that is going to be discontinued from within Wyndham by the end of the year, somewhere around 10. And I would imagine that number probably gets, I would say the final number would be probably closer to 15 if I had to put money on it. But the bottom line is at the end of 2025, we will see, probably between 10 and 15 Club Wyndham resorts. And it is important to note that all of the ones that have been confirmed, even if that confirmation has been, back channel confirmation, these are mostly old Fairfield resorts, original deeded ownerships, very, very legacy ownerships. And so it's going to impact lots and lots of people that may have owned in these programs for decades, and then were converted or taken over into the Wyndham system when Fairfield was purchased. So how each of those people are going to react to essentially losing their ownership, being forced to give up their ownership, either not giving it up completely or being transferred over to a Club Wyndham Access ownership. That is going to be a situation that each owner is going to have to decide for themselves what's best for them. I would imagine that a good number of owners are going to be very, very thankful. It's a free and easy exit program for them. They might have been contemplating about getting rid of their timeshare for years, and now this provides them the impetus just to finish kicking that can down the road and being done with timesharing altogether. You might find other owners that will see it as an option to go into the Club Wyndham Access program and access the Pure Point program, not have a deed involved, not have to deal with individual homeowners associations that they may or may not have been a fan of over the years. It's really going to, that gambit is just going to be run. There's going to be all sorts of different situations that owners are going to find themselves in, and it's up to each owner to discover for themselves what's going to be their best option. I am very thankful that it appears that Wyndham is going to provide all of these options free of charge. Whereas if you just want your timeshare to go away, it will go away free of charge. If you want to convert to Club Wyndham Access, it will convert free of charge. I just think that there's just a lot more to this story that's going to come out, because there are people that likely have already made reservations in 2026 at some of these resorts. And as they've mentioned, this is going to end at the end of this year, which is 5 months away, for lack of a better term. I just don't feel that this is uh, you know uh, this didn't happen overnight. Meaning, someone in Wyndham didn't wake up last week and decide that this was going to happen and it needed to get the ball rolling. This is something that had to have been planned for a very, very long amount of time. And just having such a short time in the time sharing realm, of only 5 months for these owners to make their decisions, or more importantly, how are they going to handle anyone who's made a New Year's or week one reservation, or anything regarding from this in 2026, when it sounds like these resorts aren't going to be able to accept Wyndham owners to check in. I just I'm absolutely floored at all of the different nuances in this story that are just being played out all at once, and just very, very little tangible information being provided from Wyndham or the resorts. Now, I absolutely understand the need to reach out and take care of the employees first, the managers and the people that actually rely on these resorts to stay open for their well-being and their livelihood. Those people are the most important in this situation. Just getting the word out to them so that they're not reading all this stuff on social media. The problem is now they are reading all of this stuff on social media, and they're not getting, at least from what we see, they're not getting the official story from either their homeowners associations or more importantly from Wyndham on what's going to happen here. So when you have a vacuum of certifiable or confirmed information from the powers that be, you just the rumor mill just goes crazy. And I've just seen absolutely mind-blowing accusations and comments and theories, and it's just wild out there. So I just want to reiterate that we have only had one resort that is truly put out a release that they are ceasing operations in the Wyndham program. Not that the resort is closing its doors, but they are ceasing operations in the Wyndham program as of December 31st, 2025. Now, what will happen to that resort afterwards? It's really what everyone's waiting on. Who knows? Is that resort going to just operate as an independent resort? Is it going to be bought up by another program? Is it going to engage a company like Lemon Juice to help them liquidate the resort, or split off into half condos and half timeshares? You could just come sit around and come up with a dozen different theories, and they could all be wrong at the end of the day. So until we get some legitimate information from Wyndham and from these individual resorts, I think the only true thing that people can abide by at this point is at the end of 2025, you're not going to be able to visit these resorts as a Club Wyndham owner. So to keep that in mind, for those of you that are just now discovering this, I will have the link to the entire forum discussion down below. We do keep the very first post updated with new news to allow people to follow that, so you don't have to read through 1,000 replies of people talking about this. But it is very, very important, and I would imagine that the vast majority of Wyndham owners that are impacted by this probably haven't heard about it yet. They might not be on Wyndham Facebook pages, they might not be on Tug, and for them to be in such a vacuum, and they, sure, the homeowner associations are probably sending out official stamped in the mail letters, but how many of that stuff gets lost in the mail, or how many people see a form generated envelope and just tear it up and throw it in the trash thinking it's spam or some advertisement from somewhere else. So as this news starts to spread amongst the owners without verifiable and legitimate confirmation from these resorts and these homeowner associations, and from Wyndham specifically, we're all just guessing. But again, at the end of the day, at the end of this year in 2025, all of these resorts, and I would imagine there's probably about 15 of them, and I'll read the ones that we're looking at so far that we have gotten confirmation. The first one confirmation is Wyndham Fairfield Glade. The other ones are going to be Wyndham Patriots Place. Again, these are all we have gotten, not confirmation, but we've gotten pretty much someone saying, I can't tell you, but yes, it's happening. Wyndham Bentley Brook, Wyndham Overlook, Wyndham Bay Voyage, Club Wyndham Shawnee in Pennsylvania, Club Wyndham Skyline Tower in New Jersey, Club Wyndham Fairfield Bay in Arkansas, Club Wyndham Orlando International, Wyndham Branson at the Falls, and then the other ones that have been talked about, but we've had no actual confirmation, even partial, were Club Wyndham Fairfield Mountains, Club Wyndham Star Island, and Club Wyndham Ocean Ridge in South Carolina. So that is roughly 13 resorts within the Wyndham program. I won't say that those are obviously the pride and joys of the Wyndham program, but there are some resorts there that are very, very nice, that are very, very popular. And what's weird is some of them actually went through some very, very expensive renovations recently. And it leaves owners wondering and asking a legitimate question is, my maintenance fees paid for these reservations, and you're telling me that you're no longer going to be in this program, and then I'm no longer going to have access to my ownership. Uh, that that story is not going to go away. I see a lot of owners being very, very upset at their money and their maintenance fees being paid for these upgrades, only to now being told that these resorts are no longer available through the Wyndham program, and essentially they're being kicked to the curb. So we'll be following that story, and as we get updates and official updates, we will certainly mention that. And oh man, thanks for so many people online. And go through and read some of these comments that we got. Orlando International apparently sent out a proxy owners asking to vote for the HOA to declare Chapter 11. I don't. Was that Orlando International one of the 13? If not, we might have to add that. But I would expect that all of these resorts, these homeowners associations, are going to be handling this differently. It sounds like if that's the case, that's not a great news for owners that resort is going to stay open at all. Uh, I just, it's hard without seeing the communication that these homeowner associations are sending out to homeowners to determine what options are on the table for them. Some of them might be in situations where they can perhaps function as an independent resort, or they are in back channel communications with other systems that might adopt them, or companies, management companies that are willing to take over and maintain that. But can you imagine, Club Wyndham saying that, hey, we're no longer going to manage this resort anymore, we're done. And then the board members being, now being forced to send out maintenance fee bills and answer email. I mean, those people didn't sign up for that. They're all volunteers. They're not paid. So without someone doing that job, you have to bring in another management company or have someone take care of the paperwork and paying the bills and the payroll, all of that stuff that was normally handled by the management company, or when these resorts managed by Wyndham. So it is a monumental undertaking, in my opinion, for these resorts to, hopefully they got some heads up before this, but to be able to try and deal with that in just 5 months, that is just an unreasonable timeline, in my opinion. I would, my jaw would be on the floor if I was one of the board of directors at any of these resorts, and if I was just told that this month or within the past few weeks. That is an absolutely very, very, very short timeline for something of this nature to hash itself out, unless the plan is for these resorts to literally just board up and shut down overnight, on January 1st, 2026. I don't want to put that out there because that's, fire and brimstone and worst case scenario. But, I just truly hope that someone smarter than me in both Wyndham and someone smarter than me at all of these resorts has had more than 5 or 10 days or 2 weeks to really sit down and digest this and have a plan moving forward, or you're just going to have a whole lot of very, very angry owners on your hands, making a whole lot of phone calls and a whole lot of emails and a whole lot of noise on social media. What else we got? We like to think of plenty of conspiracy theories on Tug. That's correct. I will say that there are some challenging conversations that go on about this topic, but it don't hold a candle to some of the stuff I've read on Facebook. Wow, there is just people, man. I mean, I see how politics. That's why we ban politics chat on Tug, because it just gets out of control quickly, and man, it seems like some of those conversations are not delving into politics, but are getting at that level of either whether you want to call it tinfoil hatting, or just people just want to scream at the moon and say their opinion, and if someone doesn't agree with their opinion, then they're stupid or otherwise uninformed, or whatever happens to be. But again, at this point, we're all guessing. Every single person out there on social media and on Tug is guessing, other than the underlying fact that it seems very, very obvious that these resorts are going to cease operations within the Wyndham program at the end of this year. And that's truly, everything else is all being just fabricated. Now, I will say that some of the stuff is using educated guesses based on knowledge and information that has been passed through back channels unofficially, but just can't reiterate enough that only one resort has come out and officially announced that they are ceasing operations within the Wyndham program on January 1st, 2026. While Wyndham has announced that that situation is happening, and it involves a number of resorts. None of the other ones that we have discussed have actually announced anything publicly, and all seem to be in this this period at which they are notifying staff and board members and trying to hash stuff out. And as Jeremy mentioned, probably trying to send out proxy votes for owners to have them vote and decide on what to do moving forward. So we will continue to play this out. I imagine that this will become one of the largest discussion threads on Tug, especially 1,000 posts in a week, and tens of thousands of views, and we haven't even gotten to the actual nitty gritty of it yet. When the facts start coming out and we get a full list, and we get, more importantly, what's going to happen to these owners on January 1st, and that's when the poop is going to theoretically hit the fan, and we will see all sorts of new tangents that this conversation will take as we explore each and every one of those. So, oh, it was one of the 13. Okay, thanks. Listen that. So, moving on. One of the other awesome stories that came out this week, ARDA released its 2024 State of the Industry report. And for those of you who don't know what that is ARDA, each and every year they send out surveys to hundreds and if not thousands of resorts, and uh, anywhere between 500 and 1,000 resorts, respond to the survey, and they compile all of that data into to beautiful graphics. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to try and share my screen and stream some of this. But it is all available on the Tug post, and the report is free and open to the public. You can actually go on the ARDA website and download it. It's in entirety. But it does release an infographic, a main summary page talking about, and I kept these for the past 5 or 6 years to compare them. And it shows things like total number of resorts in the United States are just under 1,500, 1,497, with 195,800 individual units. 71% of those are 2-bedroom or larger. This is where you get into some of the wild facts. The sales, annual sales in 2024 was $10.5 billion. To put that in perspective, that's more revenue than Major League Baseball, which is absolutely wild when you think about it. That is retail sales. It means people are still, and last year it was over 10 billion as well. Or excuse me, in 2023, I think if not, it was super close. This is just an absolutely mind-blowing statistic. And it just shows that for all of the people that find Tug and are able to rescind, it's got to be just a fraction of the people. I mean, we're not approaching 10.5 billion in sales, and you're looking at the average sale price of $23,160. So someone in the chat, divide 10.5 billion by 23,160 and find out how many timeshares were actually sold in 2024. A number of timeshare transactions. It says it right here on the page. I'm sorry, I was reading fast. 461,420 timeshare transactions. Now I'm assuming, since it's in that, if someone wants to do some math, and 461,000 times 23,160, I'm guessing that's where they get 10.5 billion in sales. But 461,000 people bought a timeshare in 2024. I'm just gonna let that sink in. Like, I can't. How many people found Tug and rescinded? We're doing 23 million over years. The industry's not hurting, folks. The industry's not going away. It's just grows by leaps and bounds every year. And the fact that this marketing juggernaut is able to make that many sales year in and year out, it is, the math is close. Perfect. Thanks for doing that. The other point I like to make is, all we see in social media, and every time you see, and we'll talk about the news story here in a little bit, is the negative on timesharing. You mentioned the word timeshare. There's an article that comes up in all the comments, and not so much on Tug, but on Facebook or media outlets or stuff like that is negative. Oh, you're too stupid. Who's stupid enough to buy a timeshare? How is timesharing still a thing? The comments and the negative connotations around the word timeshare has just existed for years, and that's not going away. But when you look at 461,000 people, or 461,000, sales last year, if 461,000 people were all complaining about the same, scam, or got ripped off in a sales presentation, the stuff that you hear that exists, I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm not trying to say it doesn't happen. But if all 461,000, or even a half, or even 20% of the 461,000, you're talking about tens of thousands of people who would all be encountering, who would be unhappy with their timeshare. And the industry itself just would not survive if the average owner didn't have a positive experience. I'm not trying to toot the industry's horn. I'm not trying to gloss over the problems that exist in how timeshares are sold, because that is very, very real. And it's not something I condone in any way, shape, or form. We all know it happens. But I think we many times get caught up in the fact that we think it happens 95% of the time, or you're guaranteed to encounter a salesman who's going to rip you off. or more importantly, you're going to have a poor experience after you buy a timeshare. Who is stupid enough to buy a timeshare? Yeah, it's I see it all the time. The same comments, and every time again when we'll talk about the me every time I do an interview, or have a reporter call me and stuff like that, and they do a story. Those comments, it's just like verbatim. Those comments, just everyone who is not, and you could tell those people aren't owners because they're mocking people who have bought timeshares, or maybe they did buy timeshare in the past. But the fact of the matter is there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of happy timeshare owners out there, and Tug is a great example of thousands upon thousands of happy owners who continue to use their timeshare and make it work for them. So to say that time sharing as a whole is a negative is a bit of a fallacy. Any system, if I type in complaints about Ford trucks, I'm going to find an unlimited number of posts on the internet about how Ford sucks. I could do the same thing with Chevrolet. I could do the same thing with Cadillac. I could do the same thing with Mazda. So people are going to claim, the people that are angry are going to be the loudest. That's not it's nothing new, and it's nothing specific to the timeshare industry. Does the industry have problems? Absolutely. Do they not hold accountable, sales practices that are, if we're out in public, they would tar and feather people for? Absolutely. But I think the biggest misconception that we get is that happens more often than not. I mean, you're almost guaranteed if you sat through a sales presentation to be with someone who outright lied to you. Do they play fast and loose with the truth? Sure. Do they make misleading statements? Probably. But the fact of the matter is you have people out there that have been happy timeshare owners. They may have bought retail, they may have bought resale, and that's a great. Who is smarter to buy on the resale market? You're absolutely right. Resale is always a better deal. But you have these people that even buying retail, and I have conversations with them while I'm on vacation. They love their timeshare. When you're at the resort and you're on vacation, you're almost always happy. So the complaint is not the ownership itself, and while you're there and on vacation, it's wonderful. The complaint is usually salesman lied to me or the salesman misled me. And if that happened at all 461,000 examples in 2024, this industry would just not be sustainable. It would collapse overnight. So I'm never going to agree that the industry is all sunshine and roses, because that's not the case. But I do feel that in many times we get jaded, and we feel that every single situation that someone encounters, a salesperson is going to be a negative one. There are absolutely honest salespeople out there. The product is a good one in most cases. Now obviously that's a really really broad statement, and so there are systems that you can go in that may or may not apply to, but by and large, it is very, very clear that the majority, and that could be 51%. I'm just saying the majority of people out there are likely happy with their timeshare ownership. Yeah, they may have paid too much. Yeah, they might have discovered the resale market, which is a great point. Is something I always like to say. The best thing I use in interviews is if I went on YouTube one day and said, "Hey, I just found out today that you can buy a used car," you all would look at me like I had a third eye growing out of my forehead, or something, to a third arm, something to that effect. No one in in this modern times, no one could reasonably say they had never heard of a used car lot, or that you could buy a new car, that you could buy a used car. That is common household knowledge. Even my children at 5 and 7 probably know that. However, if you ask 100 people if they knew you could buy a new timeshare or you could buy a timeshare on the resale market from an existing owner, I would venture to say that 90% or more of the people you ask that question have no idea that you can buy a timeshare on the resale market, or more or less. And on top of that, have no idea how much cheaper it is. So you have an industry it's the most fascinating thing I've ever encountered in my entire life, how an entire industry has managed to keep resale under wraps, completely brush it under the rug and keep it uncommon knowledge for going on what, 50 years now, 40 years. When's the first time years old? I guess resales probably weren't super busy 50 years ago, but let's call it 40 years. In the past 40 years of time sharing, and certainly the past 30 years of Tug, resale has just, it's not common knowledge. And not only is it not common, but it is, I'm actually shocked when I encounter someone not on Tug, obviously, at a resort who knows about resale. And it's amazing to me that you have an unlimited amount of knowledge at your fingertips. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone has connected to the internet. You can't not research your big screen TV or your next iPhone or your next laptop or anything. It's the amount of information available to you on the internet. And if you type in timeshare or is it a good idea to buy a timeshare, it's not like you're getting answers that are absolutely it's great, buy a timeshare, buy two. That's not the information that's there. And so it's always been fascinating to me at how they can just rake in these monster numbers in sales year in and year out, which in most cases, even though those people are happy, I would be willing to bet that the majority of those people had no idea they could buy on the resale market and had no idea that they could save up to 90, if not 100% buying on the resale market and still enjoy the exact same vacation that they just paid full price for. I would venture to guess that the vast majority of people who attend a sales presentation and sit in that presentation and listen to that salesman feel that this is the only place that I can buy a timeshare. Looking at it from another perspective, if that salesman, if there was an office right next to that salesperson selling your new Wyndham timeshare that says used Wyndham timeshares 99% off, do you think anyone would sit through that sales presentation and buy new when I can walk next door and you give me a free 154,000 point contract? Absolutely not. So you see why the industry has to maintain uh, uh, the wraps on timeshares, timeshare resales, but it's just always been fascinating. I remember when I was involved in tug in 2008, and then the economy collapsed and everyone thought the timeshare industry was dead, that there was no way it was going to recover. And especially at that time, the 2000s, the early 90s, the internet wasn't anywhere where it was today. There were people on tug, but you just didn't have the sort of resources, even though the internet existed. In the late 2000s, 2008, 2009, you had those resources. Everyone still had a smartphone. Everyone had a computer. Everyone was connected to the internet. And so for now another decade, another 15 years now since then, going on almost 20 years now, when the amount of information has doubled or tripled or quadrupled, and it's all available at your fingertips, it is still blows my mind that people in this day and age are willing to sign a contract for and pay tens of thousands of dollars. The average, that was one of the statistics on there. The average sale price, $23,160. 23,000. I'm willing to sign a contract for $23,000 that I'm going to pay right here and now and agree to pay 14. What was the average maintenance fee? That was the other thing that went up this year. $1,480. So $1,500 is now the average maintenance fee for timeshares in 2024. So I'm willing to pay you 23 grand and 1,500 a year for the rest of my life without doing any research at all. I'm just going to believe you as the sales. That's that. I mean, I know I'm in the industry and I'm cynical and I've been doing this for years and I know it's a bad idea. I just put me in any other situation where I'm going to buy a car or I'm going to buy a TV. And if you just, this is the greatest TV ever, you should buy it. It's perfect. It's $23,000 and $1,500 a year. I would be like, well, hang on. Let me check on Amazon and see how much that costs, how much I can have it shipped to me before, I just can't think of another product that is so expensive up front and so expensive over the course of your lifetime that you wouldn't do any research or the bare minimum of research before buying it, except timeshares. And it's that's just I don't have a good explanation for it. I really don't. Every year I come in and say that, hey, next year, the corner is going to be turned, and the majority of people buying timeshares are going to do research, and they're going to see that, not that it's what they're buying is bad, but they're just paying too much for it, and then they can get a much better deal on the resale market, and it just doesn't happen year in and year out. I'm disappointed, and I just can't. I can't wrap my head around it. I get more and more cynical every year in just that theory alone. That how is it the average person just is willing to sign that kind of deal without doing even a bare minimum of research? The only thing I can think of is that they're somehow thinking that they have a month or a year to cancel, so that they can easily just go and do their research, figure out, what the, oh my God, this was a terrible idea, let me cancel, and not realizing that, oh man, I only had 5 days, or I only had 7 days, or I only had 10 days. That's the only thing that makes sense to me is the people leave that presentation thinking that, hey, I'll just go enjoy my vacation. I'll research it when I get home, and if it's a bad idea, I'll cancel. And then, oops, can't do that. So, yeah. So other options in the state of the industry, we kind of got off tangent there. I apologize. Coming some other interesting demographics. Oh, here's the sales volume in billions. So in 2020, they sold 4.9 billion in retail sales. 2021, it almost doubled to 8.1 billion. 2022 was 10.5 billion, 2023 was 10.6 billion, and 2024 was 10.5 billion. So for the past 3 years alone, they have sold $10.5 billion a year in retail timeshare sales. That is just absolutely mind blowing. Another interesting statistic is rental revenue, which I'd never really considered it was really that uh, profitable. In terms of for the industry, I understand owners do it, but you look at in 2020, they had 1.3 billion in rental revenue. These are timeshares renting out their units, and in 2024, that's what tripled to 3.2 billion dollars. And so now you see. Now it makes sense. $3 billion, 33% of their retail sales volume. Again, those are two separate categories, but you can see the upward trend of rental profit and rental revenue. It totally makes sense why resorts are now starting to implement processes, for lack of a better term, to curb commercial renting. So, I can't help but draw any other conclusion that, you know, renting is bad for an owner, or excuse me, renting is not acceptable unless we do it at the resort so we can profit on it. And that's just not fair. I would be willing to bet that so many people that attend a timeshare sales presentation are told that they can rent out their unused timeshare and cover some or all of their maintenance fees. That is still part of sales pitches today. So when you discover later on down the line that companies like Bluegreen or Wyndham is a great example. Marriott now, and now Disney just announced that they are going to at least announce some sort of guidelines or processes to curb, mega renters or commercial renters, basically people who bought their timeshare not so much to use it, but just to rent it out or rent out prime weeks. And so seeing that, I originally thought it was more to make more happy owners, because people are always unhappy when they're not able to make a reservation that they want, but then they see that reservation available for rent on either random site, and so you could see how that would frustrate people. But now I think the pressure is probably more in exploiting the rentals within their own systems. If you're looking at 3 billion a year in rentals for the industry, and 10 billion a year in sales, and I mean, especially since sales have been stagnant at 10 and a half for the past 3 years, but rental has uh, gone up 50% year over year. I can certainly see you know people who are making these decisions, seeing dollar signs in their eyes. Hey, I'm going to exploit that. I'm going to ride that train. If I can corner the rental market and make sure people that want to rent are renting directly from me instead of owners renting stuff out, that certainly makes a much more valid argument versus them just saying, "Hey, we want owners to be happier and have more reservations available, so that our owners are using stuff versus renting it out." And it's probably a little bit of both. So again, I don't have any facts or evidence to back any of that up, but just looking at that particular figure from the State of the Industry report, I would have never have guessed that the industry itself was pulling in 3 billion a year in rentals. That's pretty wild. So average maintenance fee bill in 2020 it was $1,090. In 2024, it's now $1,480. So $400 increase over 4 years. Going other, let's see what else we got. The more stuff of the rental revenue. It's interesting. And 91% of resorts, what is that? 91% publicize their rentals on their own website, which is an interesting fact. I would not have guessed that. And then 87% do online travel agencies via Priceline or hotels or Expedia or stuff like that. So the vast majority of timeshares that are involved in that 3.2 billion in revenue are renting online, which is pretty amazing to me. That you would, man, can you imagine if those resorts put that kind of effort into helping owners resell? That would be something, but probably not a lot of profit in resale for timeshare resorts, but certainly appears to be for rentals and retail sales. Other interesting one that I had never seen that I thought was the number of units. Meaning, you think of all the timeshares. What do we say? There are 1,490 timeshares, just under 1,500 timeshares in the United States. 37% of them, and a total of 60% of them, have less than 100 units, which means the majority of timeshares in the United States are small. I guess it kind of makes sense, but I never actually would have thought those would be the ratio numbers there. You're looking at 37% have less than 50 units, and 22% have less than 100 units. So roughly 60% of the timeshares in the entire United States are one less than 100 rooms, which is just a fascinating number. I would not have guessed, given how large, maybe I'm just biased. I see these large mega resorts. I just got back from one, Orange Lake, which is what, like 5,000 rooms or something like that. And that's what I picture the average timeshare being, or what is Bonnet Creek, like 3,000 rooms or something like that. So when I see that, you know, 60% of the timeshares there have less than 100, that's a pretty interesting statistic for me. It might not mean anything to you, but and the other option is the vast majority of timeshares. The vast majority, 30%, meaning one out of every three timeshares in the United States, is in the state of Florida. So go Florida. We're winning at something at least. So yeah, this I got the link down there in the description. This it's also posted on the Tug website. You can either check out these graphics that I posted on here. You can download the entire report. It is free and open to the public, but it's an interesting read. I don't think it's going to change your life. I don't think it's going to make anyone change their mind about time sharing, but at least it's some interesting data. And they do release this every year. So I love to say I'm a statistics guru. So I absolutely love to see year over year data and see how things changed. And that's exactly what this is for. So click on the link, take a look at it, download it, and chime in here or post in the thread on Tug what you think about the infographics that showed up there, or what's your most interesting thing you took out of that. So going on the next one, and I lost my notes. I believe my next message was, that is not what I'm looking for. What was it? The story? No, it wasn't the story on timeshares. What? I'm sorry. For whatever reason, it closed my notes. So let's go. What was the third story on that? Oh, well, we can go on the Bluegreen one. That was big on Bluegreen. Bluegreen owners are reporting that they can now see Hilton in the Bluegreen system. So BeeGee Max, that's what I'm calling it. It's not what it's really called. I'm assuming it's just still called HGV Max, which seems to apply for both Hilton Grand Vacations and Hilton Vacation Club or Diamond Resorts. And it sounds like that's going to carry over to Bluegreen. But someone did report this past week that they can now see some Hilton resorts within the Bluegreen system, and someone else confirmed that there, as a HGV Max owner on the Hilton side, they can see Bluegreen resorts, or some of them. I know it's not 100%, it's not all of them. Someone also mentioned that all owners, which is interesting to me, all owners should be able to see the resorts. Meaning, if you're a regular Bluegreen owner, or you're a regular Hilton Grand Vacations Club owner, you should be able to log in and see the resorts. But only if you are a Max owner will you be able to actually book something. So I thought that was actually a pretty clever marketing strategy on their part to show you these resorts that here you go. It's like the guy holding up the dollar, reeling in. Oh, I almost had it. You can look at these great resorts that you could reserve if you paid us money to upgrade to HGV Max. So I 100% predict that they are going to cherry pick Bluegreen resorts to show Hilton members and vice versa. Hey, look at all this wonderful stuff that you can access if you buy into HGV Max, and it's just a way for them to collect a few extra $1,000 from all their owners. So for any of you who are Hilton Grand Vacation Club owners, any of you who are Hilton Vacation Club or Diamond Resorts owners, and all of you who are Bluegreen owners, log into the website and check out the new resorts available to you via HGV. I'm going to call it BeeGee Max because I just think that's a much better word for it. But they didn't consult me in the marketing scheme on that. So check that out and let me know what you think, and let me know what your favorite Bluegreen resort would be that you want to visit as a Hilton owner. And on the flip side, what is your top Hilton resort that you want to stay in as a Bluegreen owner? I would really like to know. Everyone is anticipating this program that would allow the cross-platform people to go in one or the other. So I want to see what the most popular resorts are. What's the one you're looking forward to visiting most? And then the last story, the popular topic was that the New York Times says your timeshare is an albatross. Basically, the gist of the story is your timeshare sucks. It's not worth anything, and you're probably going to be scammed trying to get rid of it. Not to say that inflammatory headline is 100% wrong, because for most owners, I would be willing to bet that is probably a pretty accurate description of their situation. Probably more owners than the industry would like to admit that is an accurate description of their situation, which is really a testament to the industry as it is today. It's very, very frustrating that I tell people all the time that the average owner is more likely to be scammed than they are to get rid of their timeshare trying to do it themselves, especially if they don't find Tug. So that is just a pretty sad state of the resale industry. I will say that the article, while I appreciate every person out there, every media outlet out there who does a story on timeshares or the timeshare exit industry, does their best. And this one didn't have a lot of meat and substance, but it did warn against using timeshare exit companies. The downside is that it actually kind of, in the roundabout, suggested people reach out to attorneys to try and sue their timeshares, which unfortunately is just going to lead them into clicking on timeshare exit cancellation companies and thus wind up throwing away more money for something that the answer for these people is to stop paying. And these companies are happy to charge thousands of dollars for the purpose of telling these owners to stop paying and that they will represent them and sue and fight. And none of that actually happens. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. I did like the gist of the story saying, hey, be wary of timeshare exit companies. They're scams. However, in the exact same paragraph right below it, it says, feel free to reach out to an attorney to see if he can help you get out of a timeshare, which unfortunately, when you're going to Google that, you're just going to be filtered right into the teeth of timeshare exit and cancellation companies. So give and take, I suppose, the many of these articles are written by people who don't have any knowledge about timeshares, aren't timeshare owners. Some of them, do a little bit of research. I've noticed many of these articles are clearly written by AI. They can just type stuff into that. And I even did a video on it. It's very, very easy to type in, create an article on time sharing by just typing in a question into AI and just copy and pasting the answer. The problem is the answer is not always beneficial to someone who's reading it. And when they read a story from the New York Times or the Washington Post or something like that, that is taken with far more weight than just Googling something randomly or having AI spit that answer out. So Billy mentioned that the South Carolina news story on timeshare exit. Yes, I was actually a participant in that story. The interviewer reached out to us. She was trying to help a consumer. She's one of the consumer, what do they call it, investigative reporters. There, all of you have a local news station who's got a reporter that when someone complains to them, they kind of reach out to try and help that person get justice. She reached out to me and about some companies that ripped off the couple she was helping with, and she was pretty floored when she dipped her toe into the pool that is the timeshare exit industry. And so she was extremely enlightened to learn how that worked. I did a story on it a few months back, and then recently they revisited that story as a headline piece and the local news there rebroadcast the original story that she did. But yet another solid warning on, again, upfront fees. It's really the biggest red flag out there. Is the company is telling you everything you want to hear and then asking you to pay a staggering upfront fee with even if the money back guarantee. All of that is just the biggest, most obvious red flag out there that you're about to throw away money and never see it again. Whether or not you have any results from using that, the gambit is vast differences in options there and in actual results. But the fact of the matter is, and I'll say this every single time someone asks me about it, is there is nothing a timeshare exit or cancellation company can do for you that you can't do yourself for free. Meaning the only solutions to get rid of a timeshare are to negotiate a surrender back to the resort, give it a deed back, give it away to someone else, find someone to take it off your hands legally, or stop paying for it. That's it. There are no other magical solutions out there. There's nothing. A company, doesn't matter how much you pay a company, they do not have anything other than those three options, and every single one of those options is something that you can do yourself. The problem is for the vast majority of owners, options one and option two just aren't available to them, especially for owners that still owe on their timeshares. As such, the only option that you have to get out of your timeshare if you still owe on the loan and you're not willing to pay that off is to walk away and stop paying. The way these companies market themselves as they can protect your credit, they can fight for you when you stop paying and you don't have to. All of that is utter nonsense. You if you're going to have negative consequences in defaulting on your timeshare, you're going to have the exact same consequences if you do it yourself versus you pay someone 5, 10, $20,000 to quote unquote represent you or to navigate you through that process. It's just absolute marketing nonsense. But unfortunately, people fall for it to the tune of millions and millions of dollars each and every year. The timeshare exit industry is absolutely dominant in this space in marketing, both online, uh, all forms of media. They are spending just absolutely absurd amount of money for advertising in this space, and you cannot throw a rock without in the timeshare industry. Type anything into Google related to timeshare, and any of the sponsored ads are going to be returned from one of a number of timeshare exit or cancellation companies. So again, just a sad state of affairs that face the average timeshare owner who is legitimate looking for help to get out of their timeshare. The chances of them finding good information is practically zero at this point. It's very, very frustrating. Some of them sneak through and find tug, but unfortunately, many of those only do after they've been scammed. After they've either thrown away money to an exit company or an upfront free resale company, or someone called them saying they had an offer to, a buyer lined up to buy your timeshare. Just give us $500 and we'll get the ball rolling. And there are just so many companies out there that their sole focus is to extract more money from you for people that are desperate to get out of their timeshares. So the golden rule on tug for 30 years has been never pay a large upfront fee, period. If someone is giving you a wonderful story, everything you want to hear, and then ask you to pay a large upfront fee, our advice is to turn around and run the other direction. If you want to play the game, feel free. We don't advise it. You can also, if you want to watch them squirm, offer to pay them double after it's over. After you've successfully done what you said you're going to do, I'll give you double. And just listen to all the excuses for why they can't do that. So it is what it is. None of that's going to change, but we are thankful to the New York Times that they at least did a story on the timeshare exit industry. Hopefully the people that read that will at least take some pause, or what I said from the start, just do a little bit of research, just a bare minimum of research before you spend thousands of dollars on getting rid of a timeshare or doing anything with your timeshare. Just read. Don't just read one page. Click 10 pages deep. Read 10 different stories. Research before you throw away thousands of dollars. We're not talking about trivial amounts of money here, but in almost all situations, people that regret their decision paid that money before they did the research and not after. So if there's one thing that I can impart from anyone out there is if someone's telling you the greatest story you've ever heard and then ask you to pay an upfront fee, the only thing that's likely going to happen is you are going to never see that money again. So as it is, that covers the four main topics that Tug, man, I have been babbling for 51 minutes now. This is wild. That's easily the longest live stream we've had. I think the Wyndham thing went on for 30 minutes, so I may have regurgitated a little bit more than many of you wanted to hear. I appreciate every single one of you that stayed tuned for the past 51 minutes and listen to me. I promise that I will have the ability to share my screen next time. So I'll just have my little I can't even point around. I'll just have my face down there in the corner for the next screen, and you won't have to look at this, and I'll be able to actually go through and scroll. I really wanted to do that for this one, especially show the infographics, but I apologize that OBS Studio just didn't want to link to this live stream that I created earlier. Next time I'll create it through OBS and I won't have to worry about it. So unless any of you have any questions, there's still a number of you online. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm happy to chit chat and hang out, but if there's no more, I'm probably going to bid you all adieu. And again, thank you. It's now 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, and I'm sure there's probably something that you all want to watch on TV, if not go to bed. Whereas I'm going to publish this and then go do the newsletter. So, Jeremy, thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I will see you guys just in a few days because we will have next Timeshare Tuesday and Tuesday this time. This is the last Timeshare Tuesday on Friday. Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you very much, Clara. I appreciate you all tuning in. And again, back on schedule on next Tuesday evening. And you guys have yourselves a wonderful evening. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.